How's it going, YouTube? Yeah, Pat Mac here, and I am joined by a wonderful co-host. He is the manager of our social media stuff over at TGR. You want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. As Pat said, I'm manager of the social media department, let's say, for the Twitter page for the TGR. Yep, glad to be on here.
Sweet. And yeah, we're just going to talk about Mythical Mayhem power rankings. We'll go ahead and talk through all the teams for, well, I guess it's not all the teams, right? Because we have two divisions. We had 24 coaches sign up here, so we have two divisions of 12, and it's going to be a crazy time. Mythical Mayhem is back, and I am so excited for it. How you feel about it, Ted?
Fortunately, a little bit sad that I wasn't able to join, but so far the teams that I looked at look really strong.
I know. I freaking love this format. It's so amazing. Okay, so just a general idea for people who haven't seen anything about Mythical Mayhem before. We have 87 points to draft exactly 10 Pokemon for this. And it is like the highest power level you can get for Draft League in a VGC format. Well, I guess doubles, right? It's not quite VGC. Because we allow mythical Pokemon. So there's Arceus in here. We allow stuff like Volcanion that isn't usually in VGC. There's probably other Pokemon I'm thinking, I can't remember. Hoopa, stuff like that. So very high power level. And of course all the restricted Pokemon. So like Calyrex Ice and Palkia and all that kind of stuff. So basically every Pokemon that is in Scarlet Violet that you can use in the game, you can draft here, which is pretty exciting. I'm pretty hyped for this. So the teams are quite strong. And yeah, we're just going to talk through all the teams, just going to give our thoughts on them. And then at the end, I've put what I think are the top 5 teams. And Ted, of course, doesn't know about this. This is how we do this here. Ted has absolutely no idea who I think the best teams are. And at the end, we're going to get his reaction. And then, I don't know. I always seem to be swayed away from one of my choices at the end of this after talking through a team. So, you know, we'll have that conversation at the end as well. All right, you ready to get this started, Ted?
Yep, let's start.
Okay, we're going to start off with your favorite team, the Vegas Corviknights, coached by Ant-Man. And why don't you tell Ant-Man about why you think his team is your favorite?
I'm sorry, man. Trash. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Ant-Man's team is really strong. I really like the Kyogre pick. Obviously, there's not really much that I'm looking at to take advantage of the rain other than the Zapdos with Hurricane and the Beartic with Swift Swim. I would probably want to see a little bit more options with the Kyogre, but overall the team's really strong. Dialga Origin form. I'm not used to the Legends Arceus forms because I just completed the game and never touched it again.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about the pick, so I never used it. Can't get my judgment on that. I really like terrain on this team as well. Like Kyogre benefits from grassy terrain a little bit, although taking those grass hits is going to be a little bit complicated, but I think that's alright. I think grassy terrain recovery is nice on this team. Intimidate is really good for those bulky Pokemon Origin, the Origin form of Dialga, Zapdos, Sylveon, and Kyogre. So I think overall he has good supporting pieces. I think the one thing, like I mentioned before, to change is probably get a little bit more Pokemon to support the Kyogre. But overall, I like those good supporting picks in Rillaboom, Arcanine, and the Zapdos.
Yeah, the team looks pretty strong overall. And then the Annihilate is one that we didn't mention, but it's kind of a nice option to discourage to Intimidate. There aren't really that many Pokemon on the team that are too scared of Intimidate, I'd say. Like, Arcanine can be a special attacker if you're worried about Intimidate. Rillaboom can be more of a support piece a lot of time. And then most of the other Pokemon are special attackers, so it's not too scary. But Annihilate does obviously remove the the likelihood of people bringing Intimidate against the team. And like you mentioned, the Beartic being a a nice option for Swift Swim. I kind of disagree a little bit about the team needing more support for Kyogre. I think Kyogre is just a beast all on its own, and so having the like low tier pick for Beartic to take advantage of it, I kind of like. But we've seen Kyogre teams do really well in the past, and usually they had like last gen it was Kingdra was usually the really common partner to go along with it. So in the past we've definitely seen some of those really powerful Swift Swim users take advantage. What do you think of the low tier picks, the Alolan Muck and the Tropius? We hadn't talked about those yet.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of the Alolan Muck actually. I think it's actually really good in singles, but I think it can operate pretty well in doubles. Like poison touch, poison jab is a really good option to guarantee or somewhat guarantee those poisons. Like the dark stab is really great as well. So I think overall it's a solid mon.
The Tropius one I'm not 100% sure on. Like I feel like that Pokemon is I don't know, I don't quite know what it offers to the team. I know it has like handful of options like Tailwind and like Wide Guard, so it has a handful of like support options, but you can't really take advantage of Chlorophyll, right?
No, I think it can go like a stallish harvest set kind of, but I'm not sure if that's gonna work in doubles.
Yeah, and it would be really hard to do in like this high power format, right?
Yeah.
Being able to like try to outbulk something. Like imagine trying to outbulk a Kyogre. Thankfully it's on your team, right? But just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the team looks pretty strong overall, and yeah, I really liked his team. That Kyogre first pick makes a lot of sense. I personally think it's the strongest restricted or mythical in the format, and I think he's rounded the team out pretty nicely. So okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here. And we have the Belgian ORICORIOS. And I'll go and chat about this team. And this team, just like, I look at this team and I feel like it was based on a gimmick. Like, he picked up Arceus, and for this, the Arceus forms were actually split into 3 groups. And so when you picked an Arceus form, you had to pick a type to go along with it. So Spooks here chose the Arceus normal, which means he isn't item locked. The other ones are item locked into whatever their plate is. But it also meant that like 5 other forms for Arceus couldn't get picked. Anyway, so he chose Arceus normal as his first one, and I feel like after that he's like, this is like a really good priority extreme speed. What else in the game has priority? Let me pick all of those Pokemon. So he's got Aqua Jet, some more extreme speed, Sucker Punch, Shadow Sneak, Bullet Punch, some more Bullet Punch, what else? Vacuum Wave. He's got Prankster priority, and then he's got First Impression Sucker Punch. And then there's Ditto. And there's just like a Ditto on this team for, I don't know, Ditto in like a restricted and mythical format like this, if you can copy your opponent's like, I don't know, Magearna or your opponent's Kyogre, like that can make your team overall quite a bit stronger. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just looked at this team and went, there's a ton of priority on this. Hopefully y'all can take a double priority moves. And yeah, I don't know. I thought this team was pretty funny. What do you think about it, Ted?
So looking at it more, I think this team desperately wants Chien-Pao, just by like all the priority that this team has, especially like we know the common combo with Dragonite Chien-Pao. That's a super common thing in VGC. But yeah, I think yeah, like you said, like there's all the priorities in the world that you want on this team. It's gonna be a little bit hard to stop it because you're gonna have to double protect every other turn. But I think it's pretty manageable. But again, like it's gonna be really hard, and I think this team, like I said, desperately wants Chien-Pao to have that ability to lower defenses and just go hammer with those priority moves.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Chien-Pao in particular, because this team is all physical attackers, and so I think the downside of a team like this is that if there's any Pokemon on your opponent's team, like a I don't know, like a Ting-Lu, right, that can go like crazy bulky HP and defense, or like an Iron Treads, for example, you know, stuff that like has really strong defenses, like they're just gonna invest in like max HP, max defense, and you're gonna have such a hard time picking up KOs against them. So there is the downside of that, And there are like some options on the team to be special attackers, like Arceus, of course, can be anything. Dragonite, we've seen special sets for that before. But most of these other Pokemon like really want to be physical attackers. And so the Chien-Pao would be amazing for this if they were able to grab that. But I'm guessing it was picked before they ever had a chance to, just based on how likely Chien-Pao was to be picked up, you know? Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go take a look at the next team here. And this is the Chicago CINDERACE. What do you think about this team, Ted?
So, if I'm correct, this is Dominic's team, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, Magearna is really strong this generation. I think it gained a few moves. I'm not sure what the moves were, but I'm fairly certain that it gained a few good supporting options. But again, like I think, just like last generation, I think it's one of the more broken OP mons, just because of Soul Heart. No Dynamax, but it definitely benefits from Terastallization. So that's something to watch out for. The Tricker mode is actually really good here as well with the NDD Armrouge. That's the male form. So no follow me, but I think it's still going to be pretty good, you know, spamming those expanding forces for, you know, double on both sides, double damage. And then Hawlucha, you know, again, like more in burden, benefiting from the terrain, getting that speed up boost is nice for it. Hoopa, I think the Unbound form is a little bit better than the normal form, just my opinion in general. But I think it's pretty nice on here. Dark and Psychic only weak to Bug, which is pretty nice. Bug is not super common, but again, something to watch out for. Hits really strong on the special attacking side, but can also hit pretty well on the physical side. And this team also has 2 Paradox Pokemon, which is kind of hard, in my opinion, to get, especially with all the rave of players wanting to go for those Paradox Pokemon immediately in the first round. So I think that's really good for this team as well, having 2 excellent Paradox Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And like they have a really strong Trick Room mode, which you'd mentioned. I really like that option for this, but they can go a little bit faster too. Like Iron Bundle with Booster Energy gets really, really fast and has some nice Icy Wind speed control. And then along with the Unburden that you mentioned with Hawlucha. I like the team overall. I think it has a lot of options. And just a small correction for the Hoopa. This one is the Psychic Ghost one. The Unbound is the Psychic Dark one.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one has, the weaknesses are a little bit different, but just overall in terms of like how it plays, I think it's pretty similar to the Unbound form. Just I think it has like less speed maybe, and I think the attack options are a little bit stronger for the Unbound. So I agree, I like the Unbound more, but this one is no slouch. It could definitely hit really hard. But yeah, I think the team is really neat. They have some really cool options here. There's some very clear modes, you know, like there's the Unburden and the Trick Room and the terrain mode and stuff like that. And then they have like a ton of fake out support as well. And you know, Magearna is just an absolutely crazy Pokemon. That thing hits super hard. So yeah, I think the team looks pretty strong overall as well. Okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here. And this is the Salad Bowl. And I think this one is iSalad, I believe, is the coach for this one. And I'll go and chat about this team. I think this team is kind of interesting. It has like, this is one that I would look at this and go like, where's the rain support? You know, like you draft round 3 Pelipper, and then is the round 3 Pelipper really just here for Urshifu to make the Surging Strikes hit harder? And if that's the case, then like, I don't know. I don't feel like it really benefits the team too much. And I think like some more priority picks earlier on would have made more sense for me. But having some Electric Terrain from Rhydon, having a couple of Paradox Iron Pokemon between Iron Moth and Iron Treads to get those speed or damage boosts depending on how you EV them looks pretty strong here as well. And then some really solid priority. You know, you have Hisuian Arcanine with extreme speed, you have Morgrem, you have some Sucker Punch, Aqua Jet, stuff like that. So I think the team overall looks like it can do pretty well. I would say that the speed control is a little bit lacking. Like I believe there's some forms of Tailwind on the team. But yeah, I would say like in a general sense, the team really wants to play out of Trick Room, but doesn't have too many ways to play or stop Trick Room from going up. There is the option of trying to outbulk things with Morgrim and having screens up. And screens in this kind of format is really, really solid. There's so many Pokemon with such high damage output that being able to have screens just allows you to live some of those hits that you wouldn't normally be able to live and play a little bit more offensive, which I think this team really wants to do. They have a ton of attacking threats, so much damage output, and so having Morgrim to set those screens I think is a really, really solid pickup there at like pick 8 or 9, something like that. Oh, pick 8 actually. Yeah, would be pick 8. But yeah, I think the team looks pretty neat. They have a lot of high damage output options here, and then some ways of using the terrain from Miraidon. What do you think about the team, Ted?
So I think their brain mode and the terrain mode kind of clash a little bit too much. Like the rain mode doesn't necessarily help out like the Iron Moth with the fire attacks, and it certainly doesn't help the Arcanine or the Cleavor, because they don't really want to take a water type attack from the opposing side. And if you don't want to take that, then you're kind of forced to Terra either one of those, and you're kind of just losing that Terra value on another Pokemon like Urshifu or a Regidrago into a defensive typing that they would benefit from. So that's kind of my main concern for this team. But I think overall, like the power output is pretty high. I think Koraidon setting up the terrain for, like you said, for the Iron Treads and the Iron Moth is great. Not forcing to run the booster energy and just run another item like Scarf or Choice Specs or Leftovers or Choice Band. Mm-hmm. And then like the rain mode is pretty strong with the Urshifu boosting up those Surging Strikes, and then go Terra Watering and even boosting that even more. So yeah, overall I think the power level is really high. I just think that both modes kind of clash a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm. I think if I were to, like, if this were on a team, I'd probably be looking to trade out Pelipper and see if I get some more value somewhere else. Because I think, like, we mentioned about how the Surging Strikes can get boosted from rain, but, like, do you really need it? Like, it's already a super strong attacking move. Like, there are other ways that you can kind of boost up your damage of Urshifu without mitigating the rest of your team,
Yeah.
Okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here. And this is the Metro Metagross. And why don't you go and talk about this team first, Ted?
Okay, Spades team. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Miraidon, right? Yep.
Nope, this one's Koraidon, yeah.
This is Koraidon, not Miraidon. Okay.
Yeah.
I always get these confused. They're very similar. So Koraidon obviously sets up the sun for the two Paradox Pokemon, Sandy Shocks and the Brute Bonnet. I think two decently like lower highish tier Paradox Pokemon. I think Sandy Shocks is great. Hits hard, has a slightly awkward speed, but it's still pretty fast at 101. Spinning those Thunderbolts and Earth Powers is nice. Brute Bonnet for support, but can hit hard with an attack boost, like with a Crunch or Sucker Punch or a Seed Bomb. But again, like I mentioned, like provides support with Spore, which is really annoying, I think, in this format. Enamorous Incarnate, really strong, huge fan of it. Contrary Superpower is really strong, really common, and Terra Fighting only boosts that even more. Volcanion also benefits from the sun as well, with Steam Eruption. Doesn't really need Scald. I don't know why they gave it Scald. It doesn't need that. Steam Eruption is better. But yeah, overall, solid Mon. And then they have a decently good trigger mode with Cresselia. I don't think anything else is pretty slow other than Brute Bonnet and the Lycanroc. But it is there. I think it can do something. And then we can't forget about Goldago. Goldago with Nasty Plot, Make It Rain with Specs, Steel Terra does a lot of damage. Yeah, it just hits really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only kind of downside here is the Sun mode weakening those Steam Eruption attacks from Volcanion. But aside from that, I really like the team overall. And I think you mentioned the Trick Room mode, and so like having that, I think, in your back pocket is kind of nice because there are quite a few like faster threats on here, between the Koraidon, between the Sandy Shocks. So having like a Trick Room option, I think is pretty solid because I don't think this team has Tailwind. I could be wrong. Does the Namorous have Tailwind? I forget.
Yeah, Namorous gets Tailwind.
Okay, so they do have some options for Tailwind, but they also have like, I'm pretty sure Persian has Icy Wind, so you could go with that as like a speed control option. And then yeah, overall like the team has a ton of bulk and a ton of hard hitting threats, which I think is where you want to be in a format like this. Okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here. And we have the TYNAMO SASSARI. And I'll go and chat about this team first. This team, I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about the draft. This team had the pick of the draft at, what round was that? Round 7, when they snatched up the Tatsugiri. And you'll notice that there's no Dondozo on this team. Someone had drafted Dondozo round 2 and had just planned on leaving Tatsugiri until like the very end. And that Tatsugiri pick like absolutely sniped the Dondozo player, but it fits so well on Andrea's team here that it made a lot of sense for her to pick it up, and just gave her another like strong special attacking option to add next to the Chi-Yu, which I think was a really nice pick to go along with the Calyrex Shadow Rider. Those two together, you add in the Tatsugiri, there is so much special attacking offense here that people are gonna bring Assault Vest or high Spit F Pokemon. But then you look at the rest of the team, and you have like Landorus and Sneasler that can do a ton of damage. Grimmsnarl is like a really strong attack stat as well. And then a couple of like low tier defensive or support Pokemon, which I think is really where you want to be in this format. As well as having a Amoonguss to draw things away with redirection. Like, I love the Amoonguss pick on this team because some of those high tier threats, they're a little squishy. You know, the Calyrex Shadow Rider like has pretty solid stats overall, but the typing makes it like 4 times weak to those dark or ghost attacks. And so being able to draw some of those things away with Rage Powder, I think is a really good place to be for Andrea here. What do you think about this team, Ted?
Some future advice for the Dozo player: just get Tatsugiri the next round. It's not worth waiting for it, coming from the experienced Dozo player. Next time if you want to get Dozo Giri, just get Tatsugiri the next round just to get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, this team is really strong. I like the Chi-Yu Calyrex Shadow Rider. I saw the chat mentioning about this team, so I know a little bit about it. But yeah, that combo is super strong, and paired up with the Grimmsnarl to make it even more bulky is really threatening. And like Sneasler and Lando covering like the physical side is great as well, just so like you can break through those high special walls if Calyrex can't shred through that. So yeah, I think that's great. And like the lower tier picks are pretty decent. Sugan Sliggoo is not the same as its evolved form. It doesn't get shelter, but I think it's still pretty good for Eviolite. Sugan Electrode, I like the typing, but it's not the best overall. But I think it can work as a niche. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like the top tier Pokemon, including Amoonguss, I think all those are pretty great. Mm-hmm. I would probably look into getting better lower tier value out of the tier list, but I think it's alright. I think Tatsugiri, like you said, fills a role for the team. Redirecting those like water type attacks for the Chi-Yu with Storage Gem is really nice. So yeah, overall really solid.
And for the Landorus too, which is a pretty solid combo as well. Yeah, I think the team is nice. I really actually like this Sneasler pick. I don't know if I mentioned how much I liked it before, but you know, you look at what Calyrex Shadow doesn't want to deal with, and Sneasler is like, yeah, I'll hit those things all day, you know, so I think it's a really nice option. It would kind of be cool if they could add a like terrain mode of some kind on here, just so that they'd have the option of Unburden Sneasler. I don't necessarily know if it like is as needed, but just kind of like as a back pocket option, being able to use like a Grassy Seed or a Electric Seed or Psychic Seed or something, just to like get that boost on Sneasler. Seems like it might be kind of nice. So it might be something that Andrea could look to, but I wouldn't say it's like a requirement of the team, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know? Okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here, and here we go, yeah. So the Supernova Jirachi, and why don't you chat about this team, Ted? What do you think?
Can you start? Because it's like it's not showing. It's not showing the screen, so you can.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll go and start up this one. So we have we have a Sun mode right straight off the bat with Groudon, and you got Fluttermane there to add to the Sun mode, and then of course we have the round 5 low tier Leafeon pick. Absolutely looking forward to Kev's making this Pokemon shine since he valued it so high at round 5. But this is like, there's also you can see there's the round 7 Urshifu single strike. Like, that is wild. I can't believe that Pokemon lasted that long. So he's got some really strong options here. You know, like a lot of times when you have an Urshifu on your team, the opposing team just doesn't want to bring Protect because of how often it's just not going to do anything if the Urshifu comes. And then of course that just opens up all of your strong, your other strong attacking threats between, you know, the Groudon, between the Fluttermane, between the Thundurus Therian. If people aren't protecting, you know, like you're taking 140, 135 base power or base stat attacks, and so those can be pretty scary and hard to deal with. So I like the options that Kev's went with here, grabbing that that Urshifu. The Palkia feels a little weird on the team. You know, like you have this Pokemon that as a water dragon, you know, like having the sun kind of negates the water aspect of it. And we already have a Groudon too, or not Groudon, we already have a Gastrodon too. So like we already have that water typing. So I think that like a different restricted or mythical Pokemon would make a little bit more sense in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure why Palkia was the option here as the second restricted. But in general, right, they have some really strong sun mode options going on here. It's a little unfortunate. I'm pretty sure that the Thundurus forms lost Weather Ball, because that would have been a really nice option for this team. But yeah, they have a Trick Room mode here. You know, they can set it with Bronzong. They can kind of go fast with Fluttermane and Thundurus. So I think they have a lot of their like speed control options covered, and then like this low tier Impidimp probably trying to take advantage of some parting shot options or some fake out to add some different dynamics to the team. Because if I remember correctly, that is the only Pokemon on the team that has fake out, which makes it like a really nice option to, you know, just kind of either force people to have Covert Cloak to avoid it, or, you know, like people don't bring it at all and then they're a little bit weaker to the fake out. So it's kind of a nice option to have that low tier fake out, and so people aren't as prepped against it. All right, Ted,
yeah.
You back and able to see us again?
Yeah, I just had to close the screen and open it back again. Is it right now?
Beautiful. All right, you want to chat about what you see here as well?
So yeah, I more so agree with you. I think the Palkia origin doesn't really fit too well in this team because you already have Gastrodon. It's pretty good defensively with Storm Drain. So I would probably like to see another restricted paired up with the Groudon. I think this is the Violet draft, so I think only what's left there?
There's not a whole lot left per se. Like there are some options. You could go a little bit lower in point value than Palkia to grab maybe like a Mewtwo, which actually Mewtwo wouldn't be so bad for the team. Like Bronzong is technically a psychic type, but doesn't really operate like one. So you could grab Mewtwo and kind of that be your quote unquote only psychic type, which actually I do like quite a bit. Because you have Mewtwo to hit on the special attacking side, you have Groudon to hit on the physical attacking side, as well as Urshifu and Fluttermane splitting the difference there on physical and special. So I kind of like the Mewtwo as an option, but if he wants to rework points, he could also look to go even higher and try to grab Eternatus, which could be kind of neat.
Yeah, I think actually Eternatus looks pretty great here. They don't have too much of a ground weakness, so I think that can work out here. But yeah, overall, I think the Sun mode is really strong. Leafeon with the Chlorophyll to benefit from for the speed boost is nice with Bow. Fluttermane obviously benefits from the sun with photosynthesis. Getting that special attack or speed boost is really immediately is really great. And we can't forget Groudon. I think again, Groudon is gonna dominate this format a little bit. Again, not so much as last generation, but I think it's still gonna do all right with Precipice Blades. Spending those fire type attacks in the sun is gonna be nice. So yeah, really strong and also bulky option.
Yeah, definitely.
Thunderous Therian. I don't really like it on the Sun team. I would most likely prefer it on a Rain team, but I think it's alright. The Wind Bolt Storm is really strong move, although it can miss, but it's still a really strong option. So yeah, I think overall a really strong team.
Yeah. Okay, and taking a look at our next team here, we have the Texas TOEDSCRUEL. And go and talk about this team, Ted. What do you think?
Okay, so this team does have the Chien-Pao.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Chien-Pao next to Zacian is kind of gross. I don't like that option.
I don't like prepping against it. That's for sure.
But Behemoth Blade next to Sword of Ruin is disgusting. No defensive wall is going to be able to take that too well. At least losing like 50% of their health in the process. So yeah, something to watch out for. The snow mode to benefit for Chien-Pao is actually really nice. Kind of negating that Sword of Ruin. Getting that defense boost in snow is nice. Priority Tailwind is always appreciated, but I think this team is already pretty fast. Like Zacian and Chien-Pao, Girachi Origin is fairly fast as well. So kind of not needed, but I think it's alright for a good priority option. And they also have a solid Trick Room mode as well with the Slow King. Next to Primate, Wish Cash, and the Toxtricity, and even the Bomb of Snow. So some nice fast and slow options. And Mousel, can't forget Mousel. Mousel provides that Friend Guard with Follow Me support. So yeah, I think overall it's a nice, rounded, balanced, offensive team. And this team can definitely be a top contender for playoffs.
Yeah, there's a ton of damage output here between the Chien-Pao boosting things and Giratina Origin being able to use physical or special. Like you can lean into physical and your Chien-Pao can support it, or you can go special. So I like the top 3 Pokemon. I think are really, really nice. Like they look they look terrifying. And I think people are gonna have a hard time trying to prep against them. And not to mention, you mentioned the Friend Guard and the Follow Me. Like that's another dynamic to this team that QSN picked up like round 8 that people got to worry about. And so yeah, team has a ton of damage options. I think like probably what I think will be like the hero of this draft over the season is going to be this Slow King, because their Trick Room mode isn't quite as strong as their like Tailwind or Fast mode, and so people are going to want to try to set Trick Room, and I think this Slow King is going to be such a phenomenal pick to be able to like imprison those Trick Room options and just support the team to keep them out of Trick Room, or potentially reverse it, right? They do have some Trick Room options like you mentioned, but I think for the most part this team's going to want to be out of Trick Room, and Slow King I think is a really pivotal part to that game plan. So a really nice pickup there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And our next team here, the LA INFERNAPES, and I love the first 2 picks here. I think that Dialga and Calyrex Ice Rider support each other so well as like a really, really strong attacking options, and being able to kind of lean into the Trick Room mode for these 2 Pokemon is really strong. I'm a huge Dialga fan. I've loved using that Pokemon. In Season 2, I used it and ended up winning our Restricted League for TGR, and so that Pokemon's got a special place in my heart. But pairing it up with the Calyrex Ice Rider gives you a lot of special offense, a lot of physical offense, and I think that's going to be really tough for people to try to deal with that. And then the rest of their team kind of rounds it up pretty nicely. They got a little bit of options for like a fast mode between the Great Tusk, the Tornadus Therian, the Pyroar a little bit there, and then a little bit of redirection with Pachirisu, which is obviously appreciated. Some options with support from Sableye, some more Trick Room, so you don't have to use Calyrex Ice or Dialga with Mimikyu and TOEDSCRUEL. So some really nice options here. The only one I'm really not quite sure about is Alomomola. I think that's how you say that Pokemon's name. That one, it feels a little off for the team. I think I'd like to see another offensive threat. I think there's a little bit too much in the way of like defensive or support options. Like you look at the top 3 pick and like those are all offense, you know. But then after that, their attack stats and damage options aren't quite as high. Tornadus Therian can do some damage, but yeah, after those top 3, you have like probably too much support on the team, and that probably worries me a little bit. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Calyrex and Dialga and Great Tusk to pick up those KOs. So if I were thinking about that, I'd probably look at this team for some potential changes. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Kevs? Or about that, Ted?
So I think the one thing that we didn't mention is that Sableye. Sableye got buffed heavily this generation, getting double screens, which is going to be extremely pivotal for this team. I think pair that up with like Dialga and Calyrex, Ice Rider. I think those two are already bulky on their own, but imagine that behind screens and priority screens for that matter. This is going to be hard to take down. And then like another thing that I learned just today is that Sableye gets Prankster skill swap. So watch out for that Prankster skill swap into Dialga and setting up Trick Room first turn. That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think overall like the other options provide good speed control. You know, Tornadus, Therium. You know, having that tailwind to support things like the Great Tusk, Mimikyu, Pyroar, and even the TOEDSCRUEL is going to be nice. And then support with Follow Me Pachirisu. Although it's not the same as the other 2 Follow Me users, I think it's still going to be pretty great. Still really good with Focus Sash. To at least take 1 hit is nice. So yeah, overall really solid team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and our next one here we have the Tentacruel Pirates. What do you think about this team, Ted?
Okay. So the Arceus is the grass from the looks of it, I believe. That's the grass.
Yeah,
Arceus.
this one's grass one.
Okay, so I'm not really a fan of the grass Arceus form. I think it's really bulky, like with the grass typing, and I think that this team supports it really well. You know, Tauros being able to tank those fire hits, Ting-Lu as well for that. And then like with Ting-Lu lowering those special attackers from the other side is nice. Although from the looks of it, the majority of this team is special, at least the Regieleki and Amorous, Volcarona, and the Meloetta. Although Meloetta can be physical. I kind of view it more as special attacker, but that's my opinion there. Mm-hmm. I think that they have a pretty solid Trick Room mode. Mischievous gets Trick Room, so supporting that in Amorous is nice. Low tier Fake Out and Berserker is nice. There's no other steel type to benefit from Steely Spirit, but Tough Claws is always a good option for that. And then Spupa, apparently this thing is getting praise from Bread Pudding Official. So I haven't used Spupa, but I'm looking forward to see what it does. I've seen many interesting sets in the past for it, so we'll see how that goes. But I think overall it's a really well balanced team.
Yeah, I kind of look at this team, and aside from Spupa, like all these Pokemon can do fairly solid damage output. They have some good support options as well, so I think the team overall looks like a very balanced option. You mentioned that it has Trick Room or Tailwind, and actually Arceus can also use Trick Room, so because that Pokemon seems to know every move in the game. It's like a better Mew. It's insane.
As well. Yeah.
But yeah, team overall I think looks pretty solid. I think you touched on a lot of things that I was going to talk about. The Spupa I think is kind of a nice pick for this team. Although they do have double like Rage Powder users, so people are probably want to bring a grass type against the team. And like Volcarona is basically the Mon to punish it. There isn't really anything else that punishes fire types, or sorry, not fire types, grass types. So that might be something that DJS either takes into account during prep. Maybe you want to consider like Terra types, things like that. Yeah, the double, just that double Rage Powder option, I think is likely means that grass types will come.
I don't think Enamorous gets a flying move other than Hurricane, maybe?
I don't even think it has
sure.
Hurricane. I feel like I was looking at this Pokemon recently because I'm prepping against one this week, and I don't think it has good flying options. I think it's a flying type by by typing, not by options.
It doesn't. It's kind of just forced to run Terraflying Terrablast then.
Yeah, actually, so its only flying moves are Fly and Tailwind. So like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's really bad. Yeah, so it does. It's I mean, maybe you consider like your Terra types for handling grass types, things like that to kind of get around it. But yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's go and chat about our next team here, and this is the Helsinki Hydreigans, and I'll go and chat about this team because I have very strong opinions on this team. So this is the team that had drafted Dondozo early on, and then they made like, I don't know, 5 or something transactions afterwards because they're like, oh man, I got sniped in Dondozo. And then they made their team worse. Like, I just think they should have kept Dondozo as it is because Amon can do fairly well. But they end up trading out Dondozo and they added the Sun mode. But they added a Sun mode when they have Zamazenta Crowned, King Gambit, and then they added Palkia. Like, none of those 3 Pokemon want to be in Sun. And so there's a huge clash between their Sun mode and like their really, really high tier Pokemon. So just like, I think honestly just a clean swap would just be to take out the Torkoal and the Lilligant and just look for some other options, whatever they can be. But yeah, those 2 Mons I think like really clash with what the rest of the team wants to do. And so I think that Snickers ended up making his team worse with those transactions. But aside from that, like, they do have some cool things. Like, if you discount or take away the Torkoal and Lilligant, like, honestly, the Zamazenta Crowned and the Palkia, I think, do fairly well together to deal some pretty solid damage. King Gambit, of course, can hit super hard. In a free Terra world, you got to be a little careful about those fighting type moves coming into your team. But you do have Pavilion to kind of pull those away with Rage Powder, as well as Friend Card to kind of support the team in general. And then you get to play mind games with Hisui and Zorak, which is pretty nice here. And several Pokemon that don't show their ability on Switch In, which is pretty solid as well. And then a good Trick Room mode, between a Ringaroo. We have double physical Trick Room options between the King Gambit and the Mudsdale. So like there might be worthwhile to consider a special attacking one. Because again, we're gonna get rid of this Torkoal, right? And so we can make our restricted duos really strong. But I guess if you do keep it, then you do have Instruct and Eruption here as an option for the team. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Ted? I kind of bashed this team a little bit, but what do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think this team really tried hard to replicate my scrap team. If Pat saw it, and I also posted in the M&M or the chat as well, but nobody paid attention. Sad. Yeah, I think that team really tried hard to replicate what I had, but they obviously didn't know about that. Yeah, I think the sun mode kind of hurts the team. I think the snipe of the Tatsugiri kind of hurt the Doza mode, unfortunately. That happens when you take a gamble on the Dongiri mode. Mm-hmm. But I think despite that, I think this team can do pretty well. I think it's going to mainly function inside a Trick Room an environment, because they do have their Rangaroo. Ignoring the Fake Out for Inner Focus is nice. Zamazenta getting that defense boost immediately. +1 body press is going to do lots of damage. And King Gambit benefits as well. Sucker Punches is nice with Black Glasses, with the Dark Terra. Is really strong. Kital Cleave as well. Iron Head, really strong steel option as well with that. So really strong sweeper in the Trick Room aspect there. Mudsdale, again, another good Trick Room sweeper. Stamina is nice, has Inner Focus, so it can ignore Fake Out, and Intimidate, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, like the Zoroark for the illusion shenanigans is nice, kind of, baiting out those Fake Outs and other moves that your other Pokemon don't want to take. Pavilion also kind of benefits from the sun a little bit, not so much, but I think a little bit it does. Providing that tailwind support, Sleep Powder is nice. Race Powder is nice, so good supporting option. But yeah, I think this team is one of the lower end teams in my opinion.
And I think just like a couple of switches up, I personally, I think just remove the sun mode, because it would be really tough to try to switch up your restricted mons. But you could consider keeping the sun mode and switching up the restricteds, but I actually kind of like the restricted options for the team, and so I think that they pair fairly well together. One physical, one special kind of idea, and pretty fast and with some good speed control. But yeah, I'd kind of like to see the sun mode go, and for them to switch up to something else. I don't know exactly what, but I'm sure Snickers will be able to figure out what would work better. Okay, and this will be our last team here. This is the main event, and why don't you talk about this team, Ted? What do you think about it?
Okay, this bag. Here's my opinion. It's trash. No, it's not. It's not. Really strong mode with that Tornadus, providing the Tailwind, Rain Dance. I believe it does get Sunny Day as well to support that. The Walking Wake. Great mon. I've used it in a previous draft league. Went undefeated with it, which is really nice.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just really strong, really strong. Doesn't necessarily have to run booster energy, but it does benefit from it. Getting that instant special attack or speed boost is nice. Ursaluna is also interesting on here as well, because it also can run in a Tailwind environment if you give it enough speed to outspeed certain other slow mons as well. And like under -1, certain other -1 Pokemon can also just instantly die from Ursaluna's Headlong Rush or Earthquakes. So yeah, something to consider as well as for that. The Unbound form, again, like I mentioned before, I think the Hoopa Unbound is really strong. Has a great move pool, great supporting options as well. So excited to see him pick up that. Tinkaton. They already have Fake Out with Gothorita, but I think Tinkaton is going to be that primary Fake Out Pokemon. Gigaton Hammer hits like a truck. Play Rough, good Fairy Stab option. Gets other good supporting options like Encore, so you can just Encore Protect, and you're not safe after that. You're just stuck into Protect, which greatly benefits his strong hitting attackers like Walking Wake and Ursaluna. And then like the Laura and Pix Chestnut can do some things. It's pretty defensive with Spiky Shield and Leech Seed. Gothorita, like I said, another secondary Fake Out user, has Trick Room, so you can use that with the Ursaluna. And then Best Equipment, I believe it gets Rage Powder. Could be wrong.
No.
Okay, so it doesn't. But it's as a niche, I think it can do well. It does have Levitate, I believe. It does have Levitate.
I think it's just a flying type. I'm pretty sure its main ability is Pressure, but it's a bug flying type.
Okay, so another Pokemon to pair with Ursaluna, and then Rotom Heat, again another Pokemon to pair with Ursaluna with Levitate. A great special attacker with Nasty Plot, Thunderbolts, Overheats, you name it. So overall, really well balanced team. And I'll hand it over to Pat here.
Yeah, I like the team as well. Like, it has good Tailwind options, good Trick Room options. One thing we didn't mention on the team is like the low tier Gothorita being able to use Shadow Tag as that ability to trap things in. Like, if you get trapped in the wrong matchup here, say you have Arceus next to that Gothorita, like, or the Hoopa next to it, like, it's really tough to be able to protect because Hoopa has the what's the name of that move? The Hyperspace Hole or something like that like breaks through Protect.
Yeah. I think that's Hyperspace Fury, I believe.
Okay. Called. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so just being able to break through Protect here. So if you end up in the wrong matchup against this team, that can be kind of tough. So got to be very careful about how you're prepping and leading against this team when you need to be worried about Shadow Tag. So I really like that option from this bank here. And you mentioned most of the other stuff that I liked about this team. One thing we didn't mention was Wide Guard. We mentioned some of the other kind of support options from Chestnut, but being able to have Wide Guard against some really strong spread damaging Pokemon in the format, I think is a really solid pairing. So yeah, pretty good team overall. Excited to see Miss Mag pilot this one. Okay, and now since this is the last team, we get to talk about who we think the best teams are. So I'm gonna go to the next graphic here, and I didn't put the on that graphic. I have what I think are the top 5 teams, and there's no particular order on them. And we'll get Ted's reaction. All right, here we go. So here are the top 5 teams, and I put them as what their restricted pairings were. So you can see there's the Kyogre Dialga Origin from Ant-Man's team, the Koraidon Volcanion from Spade's team, the Arceus Grass and Meloetta from DJS, the Hoopa Unbound and the Arceus Poison from Miss Mag, and the Zacian Crowned and the Giratina Origin from QSN. What do you think about these? Do you think these are the top 5 teams? Is there one you're like, oh wait, how did that not make it in? What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think the Kyogre Dialga Origin really strong. Arceus Poison and the Hoopa Unbound from Miss Mag is really strong combo restricted. And then Zacian Giratina Origin, again another strong combo. I think that can work. Although I probably would put Chien-Pao next to Zacian. I think that would be a much better combo, but I get it's the restricted.
Yeah, it's just the restricted
here, so
combos, yeah.
So, yeah, I get that. And then Volcanion Miraidon is nice as well. And then Meloetta and Grass Arceus is meh.
Well, it's not so much that,
for that.
Yeah, it's not so much that these are like this restricted combo or this mythical combo is the strongest. It's more that like these are those Pokemon that were on that team. So I think like DJS's team overall is in the top 5. This QSN's team overall is in the top 5. That kind of idea. So we gotta take into account the other Pokemon that are on the team too. So like Ant-Man had like Arcanine and Rillaboom and Sylveon and all those other Pokemon. So I think like their team overall is one of the top 5 picks. And like are probably going to be fighting for the playoff spot, which these teams are going to have to be a little careful about because there are only 4 teams making it in to playoffs from each division. So it's going to be a tight race. But do you think there's any teams that are missing out here that you think back and like, oh man, I think that team could have been a top 5 team? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Anything you think that we're missing?
I think you covered every basis of all the good teams. I think, but don't get me wrong. I think like some of the lower end teams, with a little bit like, or they still have a good restricted pairing, but they have a little less power. I think those teams can still make it as like a wild card or an underdog team. So never count them out. But I think you covered every basis here.
Okay, look at that. Ted agrees with me. What do you say, people? Yeah, so like overall, this is what we had as the top 5 teams for power rankings. But of course, it always comes down to coach skill. Teams aren't make it or break it. There are many parts to Draft League. Aside from the drafting, of course, you got prepping and playing. And while we think that these are probably the top 5 teams, you never know. It could be a crazy season. And I think with that, we'll go and start signing off here. If you would like to see some more TGR content, we have mostly power rankings on here, but I think we've done a couple other stuff. So if you want to subscribe over to our TGR channel, then we'll have some more power rankings for different teams. You can look back at some of the stuff that we've done already. And I don't know, you think you got anything else you want to say before we sign off, Ted?
Make sure to give a follow to the Twitter account. I definitely should catch up on the social media stuff a little bit for Mythical Mayhem. I haven't posted a little snippet for that, but I definitely will. So make sure to follow the Twitter page. We'll try to keep up throughout the season. I'll definitely post something for the beginning, middle, and end for Mythical Mayhem. So yeah, watch out for that.
Cool, sounds good. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you later.